What's up, poker people of YouTube? Welcome back to the Voting Vlogs. We're back here at TCH Houston. Let's get to in session right now. So we go ahead and buy into this game for $2,000. It's a 1-3 no limit hold'em. We always want to try to buy in as much as possible to try to get as much money in as possible and make the max. In this first hand of no limit hold'em, we have ace 10 of diamonds. The bunch shot is on. Small blind opens to $25. The big blind calls. The +2 now 3 bets to $90. He has about $350 to $400 effective. So I'm going to have to fold here. I don't want to flat the 3 bet and then have 2 people behind. And I don't want to just 4 bet and rip it, given that there's still 2 people behind and the +2 is pretty strong. So we're just going to have to fold, and unfortunately we won't be able to see it. Here's a better view of our table now and chip stacks. In this next hand, we have a 7-6 offsuit in the under the gun straddle. The cutoff opens to $20. The big blind calls, and we go ahead and call in the straddle. The flop comes king 8-6, 2 clubs and a heart. We flop bottom pair with some backdoor straight draws. The big blind checks. We go ahead and check it. Cutoff now down bets to $15. The big blind folds. We're going to call here. Hard to make a pair in hold'em. Turns a beautiful card. It's a 7 of diamonds, so the only hands that get there would be like Jack 10 or 5-4, which I doubt he has. So 2 pair now. We check. Cutoff bets $30 is a spot to check raise. We don't have to go too big. We go for $70, trying to charge all king X's, and the cutoff calls pretty quickly. River's a 7 of clubs, so we fill up. We go ahead and polarize for $350. If he had a flush draw, we want to get the max here. And if he has a king, he might sometimes call with something like ace king with the ace of clubs or the king of clubs. The cutoff thinks for 1 to 2 minutes and then finally makes the fold. So unfortunate that we don't get the call there, but we're trying to always make the max and not the minimum in these spots. We probably could have gotten a call by betting something like $100, but to get him to think about it and almost call off is good enough in the long run. Moving right along, we look down at 5-7 of spades in the cutoff. 1 gap suited connector, so under the gun opens $15 and we call. Rest of the players fold. Heads up to a flop, which comes 9-5 for 2 clubs and a heart. Under the gun C bets $15. Like I said in the last hand, hard to make a pair, so we're going to keep him honest. It's also not his range for this board, aside maybe having clubs, so we call. Turns a 3 of clubs, so the front door clubs do get there. Under the gun bets $20, and small sizing like this, we're going to keep him honest and call once again. River's the jack of diamonds, and under the gun bets $55. I should have known that he had it because he just puts a random stack in, and when people do this, it's more often than not they have it. They're rarely bluffing when they just grab a random stack and put it in. I make the call, and he does show a flush, so unfortunate there. Really bad from us. In this next one, we're a bit on tilt. King 3 of diamonds in a small blind. We go ahead and open to $25, given that the button straddle is on. Cut off and button call. Flop is king 10-8, all spades. We see bet for $30 and all players fold. So get a little bit of money back in this one. Next hand of note, we have ace queen of hearts in the +1. The button straddle is on. Small blind under the gun, limp the 6. We go ahead and make it $40. The button calls and the rest of the players fold. Heads up to flop now, which comes jack 9-7, 1 heart. It's a rainbow board. We have backdoor hearts and backdoor straight draws, as well as our 2 overs still. So we go ahead and c-bet range here, going for $30. Don't have to go big. Always down betting the majority of our range here, and the button folds. So nice little steal there with ace high. Next hand, we have king 9 of spades in the big blind. One of my favorite hands, even though it's not a good one. Low jack limps. Hijack makes it $25. The cutoff myself and the low jack call. 4 players to flop now, which comes king 3-4, 2 diamonds and a club. Flop top pair, so checks to the cutoff, who bets $50, and we have an easy call here. The rest of the players fold. Turns these 7 of clubs. Doesn't change too much. 5-6 open-ended gets there, but that's really the only thing. We would be losing to everything that we might have been losing to on the flop regardless, so we go ahead and check. The cutoff bet's $155 now. We go ahead and make the call once again. The river's the 5 of spades. We go ahead and check, and the cutoff snap jams for $517. I think for maybe like 10 seconds, seeing this guy play hands like 5 deuce of clubs and other pretty trashy hands, so I think he's also just bluffing all his diamonds here that he missed. It's not a 6. I go ahead and make the call, and he shows 4-5 for the river 2 pair, so definitely got us there. I went with my read. I was right on the flop and turn, but unfortunately very, very incorrect on the river, as he turned a gutter ball with the pair on the turn and then connected on the river. So is what it is, and we're going to be in the hole moving forward from this point on. After that unfortunate turn of events, we look down at pocket 8s in the button straddle, also known as the snowman, the +1 and +2 limp. Cutoff makes it $40. We're going to complete in the button straddle here, and the rest of the players fold. Heads up to flop now, which comes 8, 7, 3 rainbow. We flop the nuts, top set, and a heads up pot is great. The cutoff checks, and we want to go ahead and charge all his ace king highs as well as overpairs if he might be trapping them for whatever reason. So we go ahead and bet $35. Don't have to go too big, and the cutoff calls. Turn Z4 are clubs now, so 5-6 gets there, but I don't think he has that as he was a pre-flop aggressor. Cutoff checks again, and we're going to have to go for $110. It's a pretty wet board. Clubs are also there, and if he has ace king, then we're not really going to get any more money aside if he hits that 6 outer on the river. So we go ahead and bet 110, and the cutoff ends up folding. Looking down at this one, we have ace queen offsuit and the cutoff, the under the gun limps. +1 makes it $20. We go ahead and 3-bet to $50. Don't have to go too large, just trying to isolate here and go heads up. The button calls and the +1 calls as well. 3 players to flop now, which comes jack 8-7 rainbow. It's not a great board for us. 10-9 obviously flops us straight, and we're multi-way, so we're just going to go ahead and check it when it checks to us, and the button checks back as well. Turn is the 4 spades, and the +1 now leads out for $70. Obviously, we have an easy fold here, so not much else to do with this one. Starting to play a bit of some bad hands here. King 2 of diamonds. In the +1, the under the gun straddles on. We limp, which is something you should be doing. The button limps, small blind limps, and the big blind now makes it $35. Under the gun calls, and we already limp, so we're going to limp call here. Really bad. The button calls and small blind calls. A lot of people to the flop, which comes king 7 deuce rainbow. So we get rewarded for playing a really bad hand, and it checks to us, so we go ahead and bet $125, looking to get paid off by any king x hand, and unfortunately all players fold, so somehow getting rewarded and punished at the same time. Back to playing some semi-decent hands. In this one, win the big blind with queen jack offsuit. The +1 opens for $20. Cutoff calls, small blind calls, and we complete in the big blind. 4 players to flop, which comes king jack 7 rainbow. We flop middle pair with some backdoors. Checks to the +1 who c-bets $50. The cutoff folds, small blind calls, and when the small blind calls here, we're just going to go ahead and get out of the way. One of them usually has a king x, so we're not going to let our tilt influence every decision because it's already affected a few bad pre-flop calls, and kind of trying to keep a level head here. Finally, looking down and playing a premium here, it's pocket queens in the under the gun. The button straddle is on. Big blind limps to 6. We go ahead and raise it to $35. Everyone folds except the big blind who calls after announcing tilt call. Heads up to a flop against the tilted player. 10, 8, 3, 2 hearts on the flop. Big blind checks. Usually we down bet or go smaller, representing a majority of our range here, but because he said he's on tilt, we're going to go ahead and size up and go $50. And the big blind does in fact call. Turns to jack of diamonds. It's not the best card given that 9-7 open-ended gets there against a tilted player, but we do block queen 9, and there's still a lot of draws like hearts out there, and we can get value from things like 10x or jack x. Big blind checks to us, and we go for $110. The big blind pump fakes me and kind of angles going all in, and I almost put the chips in, and he was like, oh, you're ready to call. And it was really bad for me. I should have waited, but he ends up putting it anyways for $350. So I thought he was angling me, trying to get the read and get me to put all the money in while I was behind. Thought he might have jack 10 or something. I end up calling, and he does have a jack, but it's jack deuce of diamonds. So just have to fade the jack or deuce, and we do on the 5 of hearts river. So nice little hand to win here. A little bit of a chip stack born here, even though we're still stuck $400 because we're in for 2K. In this next one, we look down at king queen offsuit, and the low jack, the under the gun straddle is on. +2 limps to 6. We go ahead and raise it $30, and only the +2 calls. Heads up to flop, which comes ace 5 deuce 2 spades and heart. The +2 checks, and here's where we can down bet and c-bet range. So go for $25. Don't have to go too big with king high here, and the +2 does fold. So in these spots, you definitely want to represent range, and you don't have to go too big, so you can risk little for a pretty big reward. Looking down once again at king queen offsuit, but this time in the button straddle. The big blind, +1, hijack, and cutoff all limp $6. And now that we have so many limpers, we're going to go ahead and raise it to $50, a bit of the larger sizing, and only the +1 and cutoff call. So we were able to isolate a few people. 3 players to flop, which comes king, 9, 8, 2 hearts, and a spade. Flop top pair here. So it checks to us, and we go ahead and bet $75. Both the +1 and cutoff call, surprisingly. Turns the 4 of diamonds, and the +1 and cutoff check once again. We're going to go ahead and bet pot $390. Both players are about 600, 800 effective. This puts a little pressure on a lot of drawing hands, which I think they both have. Something like Jack 10 or hearts. I could target a weak king here, but multi-way, I don't want to give a price to the drawing hand, and I'd rather just get it in. If I'm behind something like 9-8 or king 9, king 8 or sets, then so be it. But we want to try to get max value here while we can, and also charge them while we have the equity that we have. So we go ahead and bet that 390, and both players fold. In this one, we have ace-5 of diamonds under the gun. The bunch straddle is on. Big blind limps d6. We go ahead and raise to $35. And the +1 just got bluffed previously, and he's a bit on tilt, so he ends up calling, and the rest of the players fold. Heads up to a flop, which comes ace, king, 5, 2 hearts, and a spade. We flop aces up to pair. Very unlikely that our opponent has a better hand in this spot, given that he would probably 3-bet the ace, king, or aces or kings, and we also block 5s. So you go ahead and c-bet for $40, trying to charge all ace x's and king x's as well as hearts. The +1 then raises to $110. He's only $305 effective, so we go ahead and elect to jam all in, given that if he's raising, he usually has some semi-decent ace, and there's a chance that he could be spazzing here, but I'd rather just get the money in here. He does, in fact, snap call. So the turn is the 5 of spades, river's a 4 of spades. I just go ahead and show my full house, given that he was a bit tilted. Don't want to put him on more tilt. Trying to get him to put more money in and rebuy. So we're obviously good, and he ends up not showing. Next on, we have ace-3 of diamonds in the cutoff. The +1 opens for $25. Hijack calls. We can sometimes 3-bet, especially given position here, but we like to just call here, and the small blind calls as well. 4 players to flop, which comes ace, 9, 6, rainbow. We flop top pair, but with a very marginal kicker. Checks to the hijack, who bets $25. We obviously are going to make the call for this very small sizing. The small blind and the +1 surprising call as well. Turns to jack of hearts, and now it checks through. We obviously don't need a bet here because we just have showdown value with our ace and bad kicker. The river's the 7 of clubs, and now the small blind interestingly leads out for $200, which is pot size bet. The +1 calls, and me and the hijack obviously fold. And surprisingly, the small blind has pocket 6s, but the +1 has pocket 7. So he got there on a very sick river, and the small blind gets punished for slow playing his flop set. King Jack suited under the gun. The bunch is on. Small blind and big blind limp to 6. We go ahead and raise it to $40, and only the big blind calls. Heads it to flop, which comes queen, 9, 6, 2 clubs, and a heart. We do flop a gutter ball with 1 over, so when it checks us, we're going to c-bait range once again. $55, a bit more than half of the pot, and the big blind ends up folding. So this is the last hand we ended up playing in for 2K. And we did make a comeback, as you saw, with all these hold'em hands, but unfortunately we did lose a few PLO hands here and there, and you'll see the results in this outro. A bit of a rough session. Leaving TCH in the game for 2K, out of the game for $13.76, so minus $624. Yeah, we were break even after all those hold'em hands that you saw, and then like I said, I don't record PLO hands, so we lost the PLO hand. It was a 2K pot, 4 ways, lost $400, $500 in it, $500 in it actually. We had a full wrap, so it was a 9-10 Jack Queen, and the board was Jack 8-4. It was $100 on the flop, and then turn it was $400, and we were basically last to act, so calling 400 to win 2K. 13 outs, assuming no one's blocking our outs, we call, and then just brick. So it is what it is. It's kind of tough after making a bad call in the beginning to start stuck, and then grind, get unstuck for the rest of the day, and then just one bad hand in PLO. But that is what it is. Sometimes we're gonna hit our 13 outs and get there, so we take those odds when the pot is worth it and the odds are right. But yeah, this one minus $624. And if you made it this far and you like the content, don't forget to hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons. It helps the algorithm a lot. It helps my channel grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.